This is a new video by Mr. LordIntellectual himself. He is somebody who recently I have, I would like to say, become friends with. We've done a collab. We haven't really had much time to talk. Both of our jobs keep us respectively busy, but he is somebody I have a great deal of respect for, as well as his endeavors and passion for the community. So this is kind of more of a, I suppose this is more of like a talky bit than anything else. But I was like, ooh, this is something I definitely, you know, want to talk about and react to because it literally just dropped. I usually don't get those opportunities. But without further ado, this is the language that runs the world. Half as interesting. Okay. This might be a react of a react, but I'm curious.
Hello there. Welcome all, and thank you so much for stopping by. Guys, it has been a while, hasn't it? Short break in the content schedule, let's say. Yeah, there's plenty I think that could be said about that. Look, I won't go too much into it today because that will have its own dedicated video at some point. But the long story short is that Google essentially just locked me out of.
Oh yeah, that was terrible what happened to him, man. He got locked out of his his YouTube accounts, both of them, because he made another one, and I think he got locked out of that one. And I assume he's unlocked from it now because this video is out, so that's good. But yeah, and then also he was getting like locked out of his X for some reason. Then I think the same thing happened to Ember Paradox. I think she got it back though, but that was a bit ridiculous. Anyways, that's why multi-streaming is important.
All of my accounts, including the YouTube account, through no fault of my own, I might add. But I have spoken about that before and in other videos that will be coming up as well. Guys, I really just want to get back into content creation because as a content creator, you do actually need to create content at some point.
That's true. You do have to make content at some point. The community can only carry you so far. You got to put in the damn work.
In the name. You also might be noticing a few differences here. Yes, we have made improvements whilst we have been away. One of which is I am running on an entirely new machine. So I
Ooh.
wanted a short video today in order to iron out any kinks. We have just migrated away from our old setup. This new setup should be far more capable. Partly why you're seeing me so animated, shall we say.
That actually makes me think maybe he was having a hardware issue. I mean, because in case you don't know, you can actually get a hardware lock on your stuff from something like changing the motherboard. Sometimes, I mean, I think you would be smart enough not to use Windows entirely or exclusively. I'm putting a big deal of trust in you, LordIntellectual. But it has been known to happen with certain brands of hardware, where if you will stop or upgrade one thing just too many times, or swap out a graphics card too many times, then you will just get like locked out completely. So I'm wondering if maybe that had something to do with it. I'm not sure. I can ask him later, maybe.
And this particular video, half is interesting. I don't believe we have had them on the channel before, at least not this specific channel. I do believe the presenter works in multiple channels. Yes, but this one strikes home for me. So the ancient, strange coding language that 95% of ATMs use. Well, boy, do I have some information here. So guys, at a very high level, I have a master's in computer science, and I'm very familiar with, well, I say very familiar with COBOL. I cannot write it. I cannot program to save my life. Let's be clear. But there are a lot of.
I can totally agree with that. I know a lot of computer logic, computer language, how coding works. Ask me to code something, can't do it. Can't do it, can't code to save my life. Now, I can look at somebody else's code and I can try to fix it. Usually I can, but if you're to tell me, hey, I need a program written for this, can't help you, not your guy. That having been said, I do have a degree in digital forensics and cybersecurity, as well as uh, it's like some basic like A+ certification stuff, because that's kind of like a no-brainer. You need that one before you can even advance anywhere else in a computer field. But anyways, I digress.
interesting things about this language, and I want to see just how many of them he touches on in an 8-minute video. So for those of you who don't know, the language COBOL or Cobalt, whatever you want to call it, I believe it was developed in either the 60s or the 70s. Now, you are testing my computer science knowledge here, but I believe that's where it's from. And its main claim to fame is that the vast majority of the banking systems and legacy systems use this language. Not so bad in and of itself. The problem is it is an extremely old, very low level language. So it is very difficult to learn. And it was being maintained by a bunch of legacy boomers that have
Ooh.
largely retired out of the industry. So all of our banking data runs on this ancient language that no one can speak anymore. It's
That's actually really scary in another way. So in case you guys don't know what legacy like hardware or legacy software is, it's basically something that was written in made in the place of hardware. Um, to just use like an older platform and only use that older platform. And a lot of times they're not updated to modern standards because take something like, I'll reach really far back in my knowledge, like Windows 95. If you take a program you had on Windows 3.1, you probably couldn't use on Windows 95 because they had divorced themselves from that early legacy stuff because they wanted to be new and trendy and hip and all that other fun stuff. So yeah, as a lot of older people start leaving the tech industry, stuff like this is bound to happen. I
essentially, and
mean,
you are able to
sorry, LordIntellectual. That's actually kind of what happened with the whole like Y2K scare like several years back, or actually several decades back now that I think about it. But yeah, it's because of a bunch of old legacy systems would reset back to 1900 instead of the year 2000 like they should have. And it made everybody freak out and think the sky was falling. Spoiler, the sky did not fall at all.
learn Cobalt, you are in a very secure position because it is a very much in demand skill, which is exactly why I looked at it because, hey, I like to get paid an
Don't
exorbitant
we
amount
all?
of money for a very secure position, let's say. But the main problem, is that because so many critical systems rely on it, it's difficult to migrate away from because you can't just turn off the banking system whilst you do this migration away from it. And when new
It's true.
programmers come in and they gain any kind of efficiency, then that efficiency is immediately taken up by extra capacity. The banks always want to process more transactions faster. Don't forget, there was that, I can't remember if it was a broken house or someone ran a cable essentially from one side of the United States to the other, or at the very least across the Rocky Mountains,
He's
I believe, so
everywhere.
that they could shave a
Yes,
few milliseconds off of their purchase and selling transactions. I'm not going to go too
I
much into
remember
that
that.
because I'm vaguely remembering that
Oh
story from one
no.
of my
There it
professors back in
goes.
the day. But I do know that it's real. I did look it up at some point, and hey, maybe some of you in the comments will know exactly what I am.
I would have to say I'm in the same boat. I remember that very vaguely. This is in regards to, I think, stock market trading, and they wanted that little bit of edge from having a hard line versus, having to call it in, because that's like an extra line of interference. You call, you have to wait for somebody to answer, somebody takes the trade in regards to like stock market stuff. Where if you can just do it directly, I mean, I guess people had money to burn, I guess, back then.
Referring to there. We've also moved to using some of the old microwave overland transmission towers as
Oh
well
yeah,
that were decommissioned many years ago, and then now they're being brought up and recommissioned because again, that's quicker than satellite. Funnily enough,
it is quicker than satellite, which is hilarious. I actually have satellite fiber optics myself. When I say satellite fiber optics, I don't want to dox myself, but I live in an area where I can't get direct fiber optics, but I could get right to the edge of things, and I just run a satellite connection to the nearest fiber optics tower. So I am pretty much near as close to fiber optic speeds as I can get within like a 3 mile radius.
and when you are dealing with hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of trade and sell trade and sell orders over the course of a day, a week, what have you, having just a few milliseconds ahead of your competitors
Oh yeah,
does
that
make
says
a
a
difference.
lot.
So yes, it does make total sense to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to run a fiber optic cable across the Rocky Mountains, or to reinstate these old microwave transmission towers. You can trust me on that. So
I will trust you on that. He's probably
with
more educated than
COBOL
I am.
being so old, being so critical, and having no one speak it anymore, it's one of these. It's famous in the computer science world, let's say. And any other computer science majors here, leave a comment below and let me know what you think, just so the audience knows that I'm not making it up on the fly. But regardless, I should focus on the content. It's half as interesting. Very good channel. Definitely enjoy their content. They have a much more generalist subject matter, but they are usually very science based, and they do have a lot of interesting topics and interesting,
Oh, good. I'm
shall we say,
intrigued
discussions
now.
that go on. So if you do like this video, definitely go give them a subscribe, or at least give some of their other content a watch, so that you can determine whether it's something that you want to continue with. But without further ado, let's get started.
Identification division.
I love that the most about LordIntellectual. He can spend a long time to say nothing and sound fucking smart doing it.
Program ID, HAI 557. Procedure division. Display. Sorry, are you not following? If not, don't blame yourself, because that wasn't in
Fuck
English.
me.
I was speaking COBOL, a computer language that almost nobody knows anymore, but also underpins over 40% of online banking systems, 80% of in-person credit card transactions,
That also used to be much more.
Oh, cool.
and 95% of ATM transactions to this day. By one estimate, COBOL programs handle $3
I am
trillion
well.
worth of transactions a day. According to the
We're reacting to my friend LordIntellectual's video about the language that runs the world.
MIT Technology Review, the oldest verified, currently running computer program in the world is in COBOL, managing defense contracts for the United States Department of Defense, or
Oh, I need to be very careful what I say here.
I was going to pause there as well. It's actually scary to think about. A lot of our defensive systems for this United States of America are running on a dead language. And a dead language is, especially if you don't know how to properly speak it, or in this case, code for it. Oh, no. This particular video is, yeah, we have a couple more lined up, but I really like LordIntellectual's takes on this stuff.
But look, very high level. One of my previous employers was a specialist in repairing the systems that, as in the actual hardware systems that run these. And so there was a saying: when you go in the workshop, even if something looks incredibly old, don't throw it out, because that could be a $2 trillion computer. a lot of this.
That reminds me of that whole internet. I don't know if it was necessarily a creepypasta, but that whole internet story about John Titor going back in time to find an old IBM computer from the dustbins of obscurity to save the future. That's a crazy story in and of itself.
Hardware is genuinely left over from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and so on. So you go in and you see this absolutely ancient magnetic tape IBM that is in the process of being restored, and you think, oh, this must have been here because it's all dusty and worn down. You think, okay, this must have been here for like 30 years. No one's going to miss this. No, you don't touch that, because that could be
that could be quite a lot.
irreplaceable. So I don't know. It's just so interesting how vulnerable the system is, and people don't.
Especially when it comes to the magnetic tape stuff, you'll be surprised how long that stuff lasts. I once worked with somebody that they, we were already in the age of like TiVos and DVRs and stuff like that, and they insisted on having all their security footage recorded on magnetic tapes, and not like magnetic tapes like VHSs, like these old school magnetic tapes. And it was kind of wild, but they never got scrambled, and they were crystal clear, or at least as crystal clear as you can get for CRT. And yeah, I can understand now. And they work even doubly well for data storage as well. You're reading chat or just locked into reviewing videos? I'm always reading chat. Okay, you guys are free to comment. I will always respond.
don't realize. People don't realize that.
I do a little bit of everything here.
I'm rambling. Let's continue.
or the Trump Kennedy Center for the War Arts, or whatever we have to call it these days. If you've applied for federal student loans or filed for unemployment during COVID in one of at least 12 US states, that most likely got run through many of the 220 to 800 billion lines of COBOL code still in use these days. And if the system kept running into problems while you tried to use it, it may have been because there weren't enough COBOL engineers on hand to help the system handle a huge influx in applications. Yet, despite being so widely used, this once populous coding language is now a skill so special that Indeed is running ads making fun of how hard it is
I'm
to
a big
find a COBOL
multitasker.
engineer. If coding languages were mythical creatures, COBOL would be a vampire. It's somehow both immortal and
That's a good one. It's true, because COBOL is something that people continue to shit on, but always makes its way back because we always need it somewhere.
dead, and tends to suck the life out of people who get too close to it.
That is an
So, how
excellent
did we
analogy.
get here? Why do we still rely on it? And
Well
if a
done,
Draggle wouldn't
well
stake
done.
through a mainframe at the Department of Defense, will it die? Today, I will try to answer.
I just want to jump in here and say I'm going to assume he's going to say it is a very low level language. Now, what does low level mean? So you at the lowest level you have the actual hardware. You have the physical layer, which is essentially the transistors capturing and releasing electrons. So if you think of a computer, think of a person standing next to a lamp, and they have a switch that they turn on and off. When the lamp is on, that is a 1. When they have it off, that is a 0. And that is binary. That is the basis of all of our computer systems currently. Now,
It's all ones and zeros, man. We're all ones and zeros.
one lamp ain't going to do much, but imagine 4 people standing in a grid, and think of the patterns you could do with just those 4 people turning the lamp on and off and on and off in different sequences. Now expand that further. Imagine, say, 4,000 people standing in a grid and turning on and off in not random patterns, but in sequence, or not in sequence, but coordinated. You would be able to see patterns emerge.
Cool, man. Sounds
You would be
good.
able to
Have some good
see-
dinner.
And then you can run calculations and do all of this type of thing. Sorry, guys. I haven't recorded in over a month. Can you tell? I did
I
this
can
for X,
tell.
But yeah, we'll get back to that. Regardless, binary being the lowest level is called machine code. That is
Yep.
what controls the actual.
I wondered if he was going to mention
transistors.
machine code.
Now, when you have a low-level language, you're getting very, very close to the machine code. Think of things like not C++. That would even be a higher language as well. Think of assembly. Assembly is another very low-level language. So
I used to code with assembly. I hate assembly. I hate assembly so. It's easy to code for, but God, is it annoying.
the closer you get to the hardware, the more control you have, because you are orchestrating the actual physical hardware in any way that you want. Now, you have to do things like reserve memory, and it gets very, very, very difficult compared to something like Python systems that, as in the actual hardware systems that run these. And so there was a saying, when you go in the workshop, even if something looks incredibly old, don't throw it out, because that could be a $2 trillion computer.
Oh shit, I went back a little bit.
Sequences. Now expand that further. Imagine
That was my bad.
binary being the lowest level.
Move forward a little bit
because
more.
you're
There we go.
orchestrating the actual physical hardware in any way that you want. Now you have to do things like reserve memory, and it gets very, very, very difficult compared to
Trying to explain memory to people who aren't tech savvy is like, it's a pain in the ass, because they're like, well, I have a lot of hard drive space. Like hard drive space isn't memory. That's your storage. Oh, but it's a pain.
something like Python, which is a very high-level language. Python will basically handle a lot of the nitty-gritty for you. So you can just type print hello world, and it will handle how that's displayed on the screen and how memory gets allocated, a whole bunch of stuff like that. But it means you have far less control. Now,
I have heard, I've never coded with Python, but I have heard that Python is kind of like a cheat code for people who understand it. Now, I personally have never used it, so I'm just curious if anyone has ever coded or messed with Python.
you can still get a lot of control if you know what you're doing in Python, but if you really want to get down into the specifics of the hardware, you need to go low level, and not all languages will support that. So COBOL is going to be one of these very low level languages that gives you an extraordinary amount of control over the hardware, and you can get it to sing and dance and do whatever you want it to do. but it is extremely difficult. One wrong bit, not even so much like a misspelt word, a single wrong bit can throw off the
Yep.
entire program. That is that. So your face is against the grindstone when you're using low-level languages like this, and I do wonder if that's what he's going to bring up. Don't forget the old way we used to do.
It makes me wonder because like a lot of this old software, for lack of a better word, I guess hardware by proxy, because they were kind of married at this point. Did they ever have overhead in mind when they were creating it, or producing for it? Because it's like, okay, like for example, I'm more on the gaming side of things. For example, like the original like Ultima Zero, I think it's called uh, Alabrath. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be butchering that. It's been a minute since I've even tried to play it. But that was done, I think, in BASIC. And I don't think Lord British anticipated that, or even the Ultima series in general, being successful. So, did these people who made like these older, hardwares and softwares, did they even anticipate it lasting this long? I mean, but then again, back then, I mean, unless I'm mistaken, a lot of it used tube technology. It's easy to replace the tubes, vacuum tubing and such. Maybe that's why there's still some in production to this day. I don't know. It's weird, man. It's like a weird kind of like Fallout timeline.
The old punch cards and the old magnetic reels, that was essentially
I was just talking about the punch cards.
typing in machine code. Those punch cards were machine code for the
Mhm.
most part, and when you put them into the machine, it basically encoded that into the magnetic reel, and that played back that series of instructions. There were also the was it Apollo, the early NASA missions. They actually had programming weaves. They were wires with magnets weaved into them, and that was a hard-coded program. Each magnet was a 1 or a 0, and I'm going to go off on a very long tangent here, so I'm going to stop myself.
Okay,
The world of
good.
computer science is absolutely fascinating, and I hope you agree. And if you do want to hear more about that in a more, shall we say, coordinated way, let me know, because that is a video that I would be very happy to make.
I'm always willing to hear somebody talk about computer science, especially somebody who's educated on it. I'm not claiming to be an expert in computer sciences. I did study it. I decided to go in the digital forensic cybersecurity route because that was kind of more up my alley. Mainly because I was annoyed by movies like, TV shows like, was it Mr. Robot? I hated that show. A number of reasons, but anyways.
Answer 2 of those questions. COBOL, or the Common Business Oriented Language, dates back to the late 50s when this whole computer thing was really starting to catch on.
There you go.
Back then, most programming was done in languages made by a particular mainframes manufacturer to be used on their mainframes. So, unlike
Jeez, this is so nostalgic. Like, this is way before my time, but this literally looks like something from Fallout. Especially with like the domed computing and stuff.
now, when you can jot down a few lines in Java and run your code on whatever computer you wish, programs in the late 50s were basically bespoke to the machines they were made for. Which is fine, unless, say, you want to update or change your hardware, or write a program that involves multiple machines. In 1959, people across the computer industry decided they'd like to have one language that they could use on whatever hardware or operating system they pleased. And the United States Department of Defense was like, that's a good idea, we want in on that. And a year later, we had COBOL. It didn't take long to catch on, in part because the DoD mandated that any machine they bought had a COBOL compiler, meaning that if you didn't get with the program, literally, you were missing out on federal defense contracts. And this was the Cold War. The DoD was funding whatever.
Oh, that explains a lot. The Cold War was a very, very weird time. Looking at shows and things, Max. Yeah, my bad. Oh, you're good, man. Take your time. Do what you gotta do.
Needles in space, bombs to kill us all, COBOL, you name it. So naturally, everyone made the machines COBOL compatible so they could stay on the DoD gravy train, which I assume was literal and well-funded.
It does give me a Fallout prologue. I had already beaten the spiders and rats in my base. So, hey, Wiz, how you doing?
And pretty soon, COBOL was all over the government, the financial sector, and basically anywhere else you'd find yourself churning through tons of data. So it's not that weird that COBOL was made, and not even that weird that it became important. What's weird is that it's still around. After all, COBOL came out in the same decade as cassette tapes, non-rotary phones, and ARPANET, all of which have been—
Oh my god. I haven't heard of ARPANET in a hot minute. Shit. I remember I had bought a book when it was brand new, which, and you know, this is probably going to date me a little bit, but it's like the truth behind ARPANET and about how ARPANET was the precursor to the World Wide Web and so forth, so forth, so forth. Wow, that's a trip in and of itself.
In some ways, COBOL has too. In academia and the development of new computery things, modern languages have nearly totally replaced COBOL. The trouble is, the systems written in it in the first place persist.
Right.
How Paleolithic is COBOL? Well, when I asked engineers whether they knew anything about it for the sake of this video, most responses boiled down to no! And I'm offended that you think I would. How old do I look? And then suddenly ordering $100 worth of anti-aging creams online and not—
Oh my god, yeah, I can relate to that. So a lot of the stuff I know because I had to research it in college. I'm not that old. Oh my god.
answering my questions. Though for what it's worth, one guy did respond and mentioned that he took one COBOL class decades ago and is still, to this day, contacted for COBOL-related jobs.
Oh wow.
Such as the shortage. To someone familiar with modern coding languages, COBOL looks nuts. Think of the difference between writing in COBOL versus something like Java or Python as the difference between making something out of clay versus Lego. Both can certainly be done, but clay, the modern language in this metaphor, will be more efficient, and you can make the exact shape you want because the thing itself is so adaptable to your needs. Maybe you make
So
a statue
malleable.
or a cereal bowl. Whatever you want, it can make the shape. And you can make the same stuff with Lego, but it'll involve more painstaking assembly and will end up looking blocky because you're building with pieces that are more rigidly defined than a bit of clay would be. Point being,
Makes
COBOL
sense.
applications run just fine, but when you look at the code, it looks completely different, and many would say clunkier and less efficient, than an equivalent program in, say, Python.
Nerds, yeah.
My favorite COBOL quirk is
I have no shame about that.
it read like
I would say, aren't we all nerds? I mean, we're basically, you know, in regards to the AI stuff, we're all basically learning prompting and language as far as like how to talk to the AIs to get the results we want. And yes, it's several generations, if not aeons removed. But at the end of the day, we're still nerds.
like plain English. A line of COBOL code is called a sentence and has to end with a period. While Java has 68 keywords,
Get off my
ones
lawn,
with
you
them
kids.
that can mean like if, else, or return, COBOL has literally hundreds. Anyone can see the difference. In Java, the Hello World program looks like this, which, if you know Java, is super straightforward, but if you don't, is like, what on earth is public static void main? This is the same thing in COBOL, and you can probably guess what each sentence here is doing. This is the title page, the program is called Hello World, this is where the magic happens, this is telling the computer to display, this is what it's going to display, and then we stop.
Yep.
Remember, this language was designed for business.
That's almost as basic as basic language, which is another language I had to code with, I think when I was in high school, which was kind of hilarious because basic wasn't even like used anymore. Everyone was doing C#, and I wanted to learn C#, but for whatever reason, I had a fucking computer science teacher that was like, no, we're going to code with basic, at least for the first 6 weeks or something, because they wanted to, I don't know, test how smart we were or some shit.
And government type folks. They wanted it understandable in a way most computer stuff at the time was not, so they really buried the math. In early COBOL, you'd
Bit of irony there, given how difficult it is as a language.
do a sum by typing add 5 to 6. Eventually they added math symbols so you could just say compute 5 plus 6, but still that's legible English. And this is relevant outside of straight up math. In Java, I could change a variable called name to Sam. I can do it with this mathy notation. In COBOL, I'd write the sentence move Sam to name, like moving my name into the box labeled name. How intuitive. The trouble is, while COBOL is intuitive on a sentence level, once you have millions of lines of this stuff, it's nigh impossible to parse unless you built the system yourself. Because every variable is global, it's really easy to change one little line here and break the entire thing. Because there's a statement called goto that has the program jump to a completely separate and sometimes hard to find part of the code, it's easy to get lost.
Oh my god, I completely forgot about goto statements. They're still used today in several different languages. I think nowadays most modern-ish languages, we don't use goto, we use if. So, for example, if input is, username, then display username's account, for example. I'm trying to be very, very generic because I'm not trying to confuse people.
Trying to read what the thing is doing. Often, programs written in COBOL are derided as being spaghetti code, aka
spaghetti code. It's true.
Easily lost in the sauce.
So what spaghetti code means is basically all the coding is kind of like all just jumbled together. Usually, like, you guys have heard the expression like words of text. Well, it's kind of like that, except words of code. And a lot of times, depending on the language, sometimes you can't even space it the way you want to make it look nicer, more presentable, because if you did, a space in the wrong place could make a function not function. I'm looking at you, CSS.
Over the years, efforts were made to modernize COBOL and give it some more of-the-moment features that make it a more versatile or efficient tool. Trouble is, most of the relevant COBOL programs you use today were written before they did that, so it...
Oh my god, yeah.
But for all its clunk, COBOL is genuinely good at processing large amounts of data without screwing it up, which is especially important in, banking and the government. So no, most new things aren't written in COBOL, why should they be? But the old things chug along. But with precious few people learning it anymore, there are fewer and fewer people alive, let alone alive and not retired in Boca, who can maintain these systems.
Not retired in Boca.
A lot of COBOL maintenance
Exactly what I was saying before.
is handled by a cabal of 600 cool old dudes who call themselves the COBOL Cowboys, and
I'm so glad they brought the COBOL Cowboys. Oh, jeez.
get called for COBOL emergencies, which works, respectfully, for now. But what about the future?
Oh, for as long
Sorry to interrupt you, LordIntellectual, but this kind of makes me think that we need to start doing like the Jedi Sith thing, where these 600 COBOL Cowboys need to take apprentices and teach them the ways, the ways of the COBOL.
as they're alive is the unsaid implication there.
Right?
Well,
That's true too.
Start teaching COBOL to people who don't remember 9/11, or start the extremely expensive, laborious process of rewriting these programs before we find ourselves with no idea how the ATM works. Well, I say we, but I won't be doing any of that. Instead, I'll be watching Daypass,
I can agree with that.
Jason from Notches Bikes, where he explores cities via their public transportation networks. And I'll be watching it on this video's sponsor, Nebula. Nebula
I
is
know
a
Nebula.
owned and operated streaming service that's home.
Okay, he's going to do the ad read now, so we'll back out of that. But I will say I am actually subscribed to Nebula.
Yay.
So it is actually a really great system, really great. What's the word I'm looking for? Platform.
Service.
Platform. That's the word
Venue.
I'm looking for. So, especially because you get a lot of uncensored things on there. YouTube and the compression algorithm on YouTube is just absolutely.
Oh my god, speaking of compression algorithm, to kind of touch on that very briefly, I uploaded some footage recently for my guild for Where Winds Meet, and the YouTube algorithm just butchered it. It is, maybe I'll show you guys a little bit at the end of this, but it just butchered it. The encoding system that YouTube has is terrible. And it was only 720p, I'll admit that, but on my PC, it was like 10 megabits, 10 megabits per second, so it was pretty clear. But since I uploaded it, it looked pretty bad.
Either way, he's going to do his ad read there. And guys, if you did enjoy that, definitely go give half as interesting a watch. I am surprised he didn't talk about how COBOL is low level. I mean, yeah, okay, it's a little bit clunky because it's from the 50s, but at the same time, his whole analogy of clay versus Lego, I wouldn't 100% agree with that, because again, there's
a lot more to it than that.
Comparing COBOL to Python is easier to use and easier to learn, and you can still do amazing things with it.
I did great on those videos, but the quality was ass. Yeah, that really pissed me off. I'm not gonna lie, because on the PC side, everything was fine. But on the YouTube side, it decided to bend it over without consent.
But you're not close to the hardware in Python, or what's called bare metal. But I'd just begin reiterating earlier points there. So I'd probably catch him up a little bit on that. But otherwise, very
I
good
did the
video,
same
and I think
thing.
that was
I did the
very,
same
very
thing.
illuminating of him to make, because most people outside of the community, the computer science community, have no idea
Haha.
about COBOL and have no idea how the banking system is held up on these struts, essentially.
It's actually scary to think about how many banking systems actually do rely on COBOL, and if all these people were in a room together and someone dropped a nuke on that, oh my god, our banking infrastructure would be like fucked with a capital F.
That are groaning under the weight. And hey, if you want a career that is extremely secure and very, very well paid, go be a COBOL programmer. But just be aware of what you're getting yourself into. LordIntellectual will not be going within 100 feet of COBOL ever. I had a tiny bit of exposure to the language itself, and I
Don't
ran
manifest it.
screaming. And this is someone who got taught SQL, right? So,
As someone who also knows SQL, I know that pain, I know that struggle. I haven't messed with it in a minute. I probably forgot a lot of it. But if I were to look at some code or some lines of it, I could probably get the gist of what was going on. But SQL is annoying. Anyways.
don't get me started on query languages. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being with me. I need to get back into the flow of things. I feel like I've been a bit hesitant this video, but whole new setup. Hopefully, all of the sound comes out well. And yeah, I'm just glad to be back. I will give a quick, massive shout out to everyone who assisted, because I was only able to get my accounts back due to a community swell beneath my feet. It was absolutely amazing. But again,
we
I
all
won't touch on that
helped
too much here, because there will be a dedicated video on that. With that, guys, I am glad to be back. Thank you so much for bearing with me during this time. You're going to see some changes because I've just finally got some more powerful hardware, can do more things with it. So the intro will change, the outro will change, a whole bunch of other things will happen, but that will come in.
Hopefully that means we can get some more gaming collabs, especially with LordIntellectual.
Good time. So thank you guys so much for being here. Leave a comment, let me know what you think about COBOL and the banking system and everything that's happened so far, and I will see you in the next one. Enjoy.
Well done, well done. I actually quite enjoyed that. It was not what I was expecting, but I certainly did enjoy the blast from the past. This is LordIntellectual's video. I'm glad he actually got his account back. I am subscribed to his LordIntellectual X account. So hopefully that he does something with that if he still has access to it. But in the meantime, intellectuals. You know, he's a really cool guy. Actually, a friend of mine. We did a collab with Lusty Links and Griffin Knight and Bones and Rosa, and it was a fun time. But yeah, definitely go check him out if you like the more intellectual side of things. I know I do. So yeah.